Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Volquest podcast. I'm Eric Kane with Austin Price, Rob Lewis, and Brent Hubbs. It is game week. Officially made it to game week. Congratulations. And if you're listening to us right now, but you're not a member of our family over at Volquest.com, there is no better time than right now to join because 50% off your first year membership of Volquest.com, new subscribers only, or you can still do that $1 for 1 month deal, but it's a kickoff season 1 week deal. It's not going to be here forever. It's live right now, so go ahead and take advantage of that. And as always, a big thank you to our title sponsor for bringing us the Volquest podcast. That is Exterior Home Solutions. Ending October the 1st, you can win a free roof from Exterior Home Solutions. You can nominate a deserving family at exteriorhomesolutions.com/makeover. Again, got to get that in by October the 1st, but going to win a free roof from our friends over at Exterior Home Solutions. All right, so game week is here. Josh Heupel opened up the game week festivities with his press conference on Monday. Aaron Beasley, Danico Slaughter also took to the podium, but a common theme, and it's been this way for a little over a week now, Brent. It's time to go hit somebody. It is time to go play somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, everybody gets to this point, and Tennessee's certainly at this point, whether they're at the podium or you're just seeing a player walking through the complex, they'll all quickly tell you they're tired of going against their offense or they're tired of going against their defense. They want to see somebody else, and they're going to get that opportunity on Saturday, and everybody is anxious to see what this team looks like. And, all the questions that have been out there that have somewhat been answered, all the questions that you knew had no chance of being answered, all that comes a bit to fruition on Saturday. You won't answer everything on Saturday, but finally, Rob, you'll get an idea of what this team is kind of about and what they're going to look like, and what the baseline is to start to work with on Saturday. So it should be fun.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. It always is this time of year, and it's not a great opponent, but it's also, it's not Jacksonville State. It's a Power 5 opponent, so I don't know that we're going to draw any dramatic conclusions, but I mean, everybody wants to see Joe Milton. Everybody wants to see what's going on in the secondary, the young defensive guys on the edge. Can they, can they affect the quarterback? Just a lot of stuff that you're not going to get your final answers for, but I think we can at least start to get some information. Wonder if all these opinions that so many people have had, are they valid? Do you need to go back to the drawing board and just finally get to see a little bit of evidence for, all this stuff we've been talking about for 6 months.
Austin Price, one thing that Josh Heupel's not going to answer, I think Rob actually asked him on Monday. We'll ask him again on Thursday, but Cooper Mays says he's going to be getting closer to playing, but he will not answer. He will not give any indication if Cooper Mays is going to play in the opener. Of course, we've said that that's probably unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think this thing's going to boil down to how quickly can Cooper, heal. Everybody heals differently. Some people heal like a snap of a finger. Some people, really, are slow healers, and it takes longer than normal for people to get back. What will Cooper be? I don't think we really know. I mean, the injuries he's had are high ankle sprains. That's a slow process for anybody. This is a different deal. And so, how quickly can he get back? I would still say the target is Florida, with that being somewhat of a moving target depending on the healing process.
The depth chart came out, the official week 1 depth chart, if you will. 16 oars, by the way, if anybody's keeping track at home. Yeah, we put ours out over the weekend, Austin, but Tennessee got theirs out there on Monday. Any surprises or anything that kind of jumped out at you with the Tennessee depth chart?
No, I mean, they're going to – when they put out a depth chart, Hubbard, there's all kinds of things that go into it, and so there's a method to their madness, because you have to deal with kind of the emotional side of teenagers and 22-year-old, 18, 19 to 22-year-olds. So there's a method to their madness. I get why they put out what they put out, and most of it's fairly accurate, and some of it is it's a bit of a smile.
Well, and it's one of those things where that you're right. There is a method. There's the management of things internally, okay, that you're dealing with, which is part of it, Then there's also the posturing, and whether anybody likes it or not, there is posturing that takes place with coaches not wanting to tip their opponent on different things. Now you see that more prevalent in conference play than you do a lot of times in your season opener. But that's part of this, madness in there as well. So you can grab that sheet of paper, that picture that's there on Saturday, and then you can make notes and scratch and see what your lineup card looks like when they roll out there for the first play on each side of the ball. Because it's not going to – I mean, obviously you can't have all the oars, but there will be some guys in there that are in some different spots, I think, once we get to kickoff on Saturday. Again, if you don't release a depth chart, Rob, it becomes a national story that you didn't give out a depth chart. Then you release a depth chart that's got a lot of oars on it, and everybody just kind of says, well, it's no big deal to give out a depth chart. I do think it's going to be fascinating to see if this Big Ten policy goes through where they've got to declare who's out hours before the game starts on Saturday. Is that the precursor to an NFL-style injury report potentially coming to college football with all the gambling that's now taking place and legalized in every state around the country? I think that's a bigger storyline to watch moving forward if the Big Ten goes through with what they're saying they're going to try to push through just for Saturdays alone.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that one caught my eye last week for sure. I tend to think that that's going to kind of be uniform. And if you're going to take all this money and run commercials for FanDuel and DraftKings and have it so prevalent, ESPN's in a partnership with that kind of thing. That just makes sense to me that you will. I don't know if it would be exactly like the NFL model where they get so specific, with the practice updates, but I think that the gambling aspect of it, I do think it will get a little more transparent.
Speaking of depth charts, and you guys might not have seen this because at the time of this recording, it's pretty fresh. There's a coach in the Southeastern Conference that said he's not giving out a depth chart because he doesn't want to create controversy, and he apologized to the media for that. Do you know which SEC head coach did that on Monday?
Lane Kiffin.
Nick Saban.
Yeah. Wow. Translation, I don't want to put 4 oars beside my quarterback. is the translation there. But, hey, it's a real thing. Now, I mean, kids aren't going to go in the portal week 1, I don't think. But, I mean, it's a real deal that you have to be there. And that's why depth charts may go away, right? I mean, they may – and I would be okay with a depth chart going away if we could get a little more – accuracy on the injury front of things. But hopefully we're moving away from putting punters in the wrong, numbered jersey on the practice field to try to hide who's healthy and who's not healthy, which we saw a decade ago or whatever it was at Tennessee. But, if you could get to the point where, you declare a guy's injured or not, is he probable or is he questionable at the end of the week, I think that would be a nice, from a media standpoint, I would welcome something to that effect. Just, I would be more comfortable with somebody calling 10 guys questionable as opposed to saying, oh, he's fine. And then you go out there on Saturday and they're in street clothes.
Yeah. Which happens a lot, right? I mean,
yep.
Or
across the country,
it's not just a Heupel thing.
Right.
It literally is everywhere. I mean, that's been more and more prevalent as the Nick Saban era of closed practices, happen. And so, people just feel like they can. And then people get, these coaches get mad when somebody actually, puts out some injury news. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff. I mean, like, I get, like, if a guy is questionable and you put him through work all week and he doesn't go, right? It's when a kid's for sure out and they act like he's going to play all week, and then there was never a chance. I just don't. That some of that's just a bit of a head scratcher to me.
To my understanding, this would be just for Big Ten conference games, and the majority of the member institutions have to agree on it. So who knows if it'll happen? If it does happen, I think that it'll happen across college football.
Don't you think their coaches across college football are picking up the phone, calling the Big Ten coaches, saying, "Vote that down, vote it down."
Yeah,
exactly.
The one thing I will say, this is smart on the Big Ten's part because they're trying to play both sides of the fence here, right? They're trying to keep the coaches happy, but they're also looking at this from the standpoint of the gambling and all those things that Rob just mentioned a second ago. I mean, this is a few hours before kickoff on a Saturday. I mean, they're not asking them to declare somebody out on Wednesday. Okay. I mean, is somebody really going to change their game plan in the locker room before you make your final run out onto the field because they looked out there and somebody was not warming up or somebody was warming up? I mean, I think that's where it gets a little bit dramatic, is like, Rob, hey, let's dress him and warm him up to make the opponent think the receiver X is going to play. I mean, are they really going back in there and going, oh, God, he dressed for warm-ups? We're going to redo all of our coverages. Forget what we worked on all week long. We're going to install this new coverage here as we give the final pregame talk. I mean, that's where coaches kind of is a little bit of a head scratcher. Like, guys, sometimes it comes down to whether or not the guy you got can make a play.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's different. If it's a quarterback, that's one thing. Who are you preparing for? A senior multi-year starter, or a dual threat guy that's not going to throw it that much. I mean, that's different than, is the left guard going to play or is it going to be the backup? I'm with you, Brent. I mean, I think coaches go way overboard on that kind of thing a lot.
For the most part, you're just taking those in-game adjustments that you would see, once that player doesn't go out there, and you're just moving it to 2 hours before kickoff. So I don't think it's that. I would agree with you. That's probably a good move on the Big Ten if that's the way they decide to do it. Looking at Saturday, now we're kind of shifting the page here to look at Virginia. End of the day, my first glance piece was out last night. A Virginia team that was not very good offensively. So much turnover offensively as well. Top 4 receivers are gone. 4 of the 5 starting offensive linemen with experience are gone. New quarterback, bringing in some help at slot receiver and a help at running back. You look at this Virginia offense. What are those expectations, Austin Price, do you have for Tennessee on Saturday?
Well, you'd hope that Tennessee's newly added depth on the defensive side of the ball can get after that, unknown Virginia offense. I don't think Virginia knows until you line up and play against somebody that doesn't know what you're doing. I mean, how different does Tennessee's defense feel going against a Virginia offense that's not going a million miles per minute like Tennessee can? Same thing on the flip side. But I think you're hoping that, some of those young pass rushers can, have some early success. You're hoping that, the new, kind of the new depth and the athleticism across the board is able to make some plays. And I think it's important for Tennessee to get out and establish themselves early on both sides of the ball, because you can't let a team like Virginia hang around. You want to put them away early. You're the prohibitive favorite. You got to act like it and play like it.
Josh Heupel was asked about a new quarterback for Virginia from Monmouth FCS program. His name is Tony Muskett, and this is what Josh Heupel had to say about the signal caller for Virginia.
Good decision maker, throwing for a bunch of yards. Has good pocket awareness. Him being in week 1, year 1 within their system. What are the new things that they do to try to put him in a position? We'll find out on game day. But a guy that's played, really good football at a high level and been a good decision maker. So for us, we got to do a great job of handling the run game. We got to apply pressure. That can be with our pressure package, but it can also just be with our front 4. We got to make him uncomfortable inside the pocket.
Tennessee linebacker Aaron Beasley was later asked about Tony Muskett as well and the rest of that Virginia offense. Here's what Tennessee linebacker Aaron Beasley had to say about the scout for Virginia.
The quarterback from Monmouth, I think it was a small D2 school, I want to say. I'm not sure. I like him a lot. He's a really good player. Looks like he wants to win a lot, so really excited to play him. They like to do a lot of motions. They like to, try to get the ball on the perimeter to get you out leverage. And that way, do a lot of play action, a lot of boots. They'll take their shots. It should be a good challenge for us, for sure.
So really, not just offensively, but defensively here as well. I mean, you can look at tape from last year. You can study about this new quarterback, where he was last year and all that. But, Brent, at the end of the day, week 1, game 1, you got to focus on you, play your assignment defensively, because Virginia might not know what they're doing until they get out there with all these new pieces.
Well, I mean, and again, this is a Virginia team that's in a complete role reversal from a year ago. Year 1 under Tony Elliott, they brought so many offensive weapons back. A veteran quarterback, some skill guys. Everybody thought, hey, we brought in the offensive guru, plug and play. The offense is really going to take off with all the experience that it has, and the defense is full of all kinds of growing pains. What happened was the defense grew dramatically and the offense went the wrong direction. Now, Tony Elliott, if you go back and look at anything he said last year, and of course their season was obviously cut short by the tragedy up there, so there's not been a ton of talk about year one of Tony Elliott other than the difficulty he had in managing the end of last year. But he was super critical of that team last preseason, last fall, about how they didn't buy in, how hard it was to try to get his culture established. They fought internally, had to stop practice, and they all had to run extra. I mean, they had a hard time kind of getting established last year. So my question is going to be, with all the new faces, does that mean it's easier for them to establish who they are identity-wise? Because it looked like they were kind of fighting within themselves offensively last year to do it the way they did it under Bronco Mendenhall the year before. And then Tony Elliott brings in something that's obviously very different than what they were doing under Mendenhall offensively. But you're right. You don't know. We'll find out early where they are offensively and kind of what they look like with all the new pieces and all the new parts they've got running around.
Rob, I just think this is a good opportunity for Tennessee's defense to, kind of make a statement early. Now, again, Virginia might go on to win 7-8 games this year. We don't know, but I don't think they're going to win 10 or 11. But it's not going to be the same on Saturday than it will be 2 weeks from now when you're in the swamp, when you're hosting South Carolina, A&M, and some of these SEC opponents. For this Tennessee defense, where we're talking about all offseason, they need to take a step. They need to go out there and show some depth. I think Saturday is a great opportunity to kind of put that on display to begin the season against Virginia.
Well, I mean, I don't want to be flippant and totally dismiss them. And Eric, I know you just looked at Virginia, and I did a deep dive into them back in the summer for the previews. And offensively, I mean, it looks ugly.
It's bad.
I mean, you're talking about, you got all your eggs and a quarterback transferring up to the Power 5 division from Monmouth, where he wasn't great. I mean, he was okay, but he threw for less than 2,000 yards last year, had 17 touchdowns against 8 interceptions. No receivers worth mentioning at all are back. Leading rusher that's coming back had 300 yards and some change. Offensive line was spotty. I mean, for a Tennessee defense that has some question marks, especially in the back end, I think this is a great setup for them.
Honestly, on paper, and again, it's on paper, they have one playmaker, okay, and that's a Northwestern transfer is going to play slot receiver. Outside of that, offensively, again, we just don't really know. Not bringing back a whole lot, so we'll have to see exactly what's in store for Tennessee's defense on Saturday. Hey, when we come back, we're going to get a quick word here from Exterior Home Solutions, but I do want to hear from Josh Heupel about some rotations, offensive line, defensive backfield. How's that going to affect Tennessee's game plan? What more are you expecting from Tennessee Saturday in Nashville against Virginia? But first, a big shout out and a thank you to our friends Exterior Home Solutions for making this coverage possible.
Your roof, it's the most important protection against nature for your home or your business. That's why I trust the experts at Exterior Home Solutions.
As always, a big thank you to our friends Exterior Home Solutions for being a part of our coverage over here at Volquest.com. Really, give them a call today for that free consultation. Today, 655-224-5888. All right, so one of the bigger questions we've had all offseason, we've had all fall camp, is about the offensive line. It's about the secondary. How many guys are going to play in the secondary, and can you trim down your rotation on the offensive line to get it more like looking like a 5-man unit? Josh Heupel was asking his Monday press conference about the rotations. First, he'll answer about defensively, and then the offensive line rotation. Here's Josh Heupel.
The second and third levels, I should say, we got nicked up a little bit in the middle part of training camp. I know you guys saw a little bit of that. Those guys are all back and healthy. They've been with us all of last week as well. Gotten really good work. That gives us the ability to rotate on the back end. We have a plan. We'll see how it unfolds on game day, but expect to see a lot of people rotating in. That's true at the corner, safety, and the nickel spot. Yeah, well, I do feel good about the development of our young guys. Some of the guys that have had experience, plan on rotating some of those guys at the guards and tackle position in this first one as well.
So, Austin, he makes note of it there when talking about the secondary. Like, you can go into a game, you can go into Saturday and say, hey, here's our plan. The game can dictate how many guys you play, so I'll be real curious to see how many guys play corner and safety, and even that star position on Saturday.
Well, I mean, if Tennessee goes out and handles business, I mean, I think they're hoping to get the Ricky Gibsons and Jordan Matthews and Christian Conyers into the game. But again, best laid plans. I think you'll see a lot of Gabe Jeudy. I think you'll see a lot of Danico Slaughter. Warren Burrell is someone I don't think will start, but I think will play. Kamal Haddon-Hubbard has been a bit banged up. How much can he go? Ultimately, they need him to get healthy. And then, at the star spot, it's T-Mac, and then we'll see. And then the safeties, about who you thought, Wesley Walker and Jalen McCullough.
Yeah, it's one thing to put in guys when you're in a blowout, right? That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
When you're ahead, you're supposed to play all those guys and, basically put your JV in, if you will. My question is going to be, is there truly a set rotation? Are we going to see in the third series, is Brandon Turnage going to come in and play corner? Or is Warren Burrell coming in? Are they going to go Christian Charles at safety or Andre Turrentine at safety? Is that really a plan, or is that just kind of water cooler talk, Rob, if you will, from the coaching staff and some coach speak? That's what I'm curious to see. I mean, when you're up big, if Tennessee gets to that point, that should happen. My question is, are they going to do it in the midst of trying to win the football game?
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. I mean, that's the exact same thing for me. To a lesser extent, same thing's true at wideout. I really want to see if they play six. I mean, they've got 6 guys on the depth chart, but the big question is at defensive back. I mean, and you're right. Does Jordan Matthews get a meaningful rep in week 1? Meaningful rep to me would be in the first half when it's a 2-touchdown game or something along those lines. Are Haddon and Burrell really splitting time? There's been so much talk about it this preseason. However, I tend to lean towards believing it because there's been a lot of unprompted talk about it, I guess, whether from Coach Martinez or Coach Banks or Coach Heupel again today, using the word rotation to, why throw that out there and, open yourself up for criticism if you don't really plan to do it.
Joey Halzle expressed his confidence in the offensive line the way they've been playing. Joe Milton expressed that last week as well. And Josh Heupel, on 2 separate occasions, answering 2 different questions on Monday, pretty much said, hey, we got faith in the guys behind Cooper. We got faith in the guard and tackle options for Tennessee. But, Brent, on that offensive line, looks like you're going into week 1. You're going to play John Campbell at left tackle. You're going to play Ollie Lane at center, Spraggins at right guard, and then you're going to see both Mincy and Crawford at right tackle. And then at left guard, you'll see Andre Carrick and maybe some Jackson Lampley as well. There's going to be a rotation on the offensive line.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how this offensive line plays because the best thing Virginia's got going in their football team, in my opinion, is what they're bringing back on the defensive line. Yeah. And really their front 7. They're bringing back what they had a year ago. And Rob, when you look at them statistically, they were salty. So there will be a challenge for Tennessee's offensive line when you look at the Virginia's defensive front and kind of analyzing them.
Yeah, defensively, they bring back, I think, I want to say the 6 of their 6 starters, the front 7.
Yeah.
They gave up 370-ish yards a game last fall. So defensively, the front 7, I think, will present some challenges, and especially, it'd be a good litmus test for a Tennessee offensive line that's, most likely going to be in flux with some moving parts.
Well, and the other thing, too, Austin and I talked about this a little bit on the 2-minute drill, is how's Virginia going to play, right? Are they going to come aggressively and bring extra people? I mean, they had over 30 sacks last year. Are they going to be super aggressive there? Are they going to be afraid of giving up the big play, Eric, and getting it thrown over their head? They're going to play coverage and try to see if they can get home with 4, and not give up the big play. I think that's going to be an interesting thing because they may test Joe Milton and Joey Halzle's and Josh Heupel's patience early in this game. Are they willing to take the shorter stuff and kind of dink it and dunk it because they're not going to let it get thrown over the top of their head, and kind of back everybody out and drop 8, so to speak? Tennessee run the football effectively in those scenarios. They need to be able to. So I think Tennessee's front's going to get a test in a variety of ways, and I think that's good for this team when you look at what's coming down the line for them. They need to be tested in week 1. They don't need, in my opinion, 2 softballs before you roll to the swamp. They need to get a pretty good physical test, and I think Virginia's going to present that to those guys up front.
I think so. Chico Bennett, he's been banged up so far in camp. We'll see if he can go, but he's their best one. He's an edge player. 7 sacks a season ago. You've got Cam Butler that had 4 sacks on the other side. You've got an interior option who's a really good player, Aaron Famui, I believe is how you say his name. Probably not. He's a really good option from the interior as well. So if I'm that front seven, AP, I mean, I'm challenging Tennessee, knowing the question marks you have on the offensive line, knowing you're probably going to give up points anyway. I'm probably going to try to make it difficult on this new offensive line group for the Volunteers on Saturday.
100%. I'm bringing the house, and if you get beat deep, you get beat deep.
You're gonna give up points anyway.
That's right. So like I would try to, make Tennessee play behind the sticks. Like if Tennessee's having to play in 3rd and 15, 3rd and 14, we've seen the last couple of years, the offense does not play nearly as effectively when they're playing behind the chains. And so I think that starts with being able to put pressure on Tennessee's offensive line, and then subsequently Joe Milton. And yeah, I mean, I'm not saying bring the house on every play, but I wouldn't be sitting back playing on my heels.
And that gets back to the Joe Milton question that you want to see too: is does he hold the football, or does he get the football out of his hands and understand that you live for the next day? If it's not the perfect play, the perfect call's not there. I mean, people ask me all the time about rushing yards and all this other stuff. I think the bigger stat for Joe Milton is how many negative yards does he have? I don't mean net. I mean, how many negative yards does he have? Negative rushing yards, sacks, where he held on to the ball too long, that type of thing. I don't think Joe's going to do that, but I think that's the question. One of the questions Joe has to make sure he gets answered. He didn't do that. I don't think too much in the Clemson game. He got hit a couple of times, but he's got to make sure that he's playing and making those quick decisions like he's made in camp when nobody's been able to get within 5 feet of him without the whistle being blown.
Our game week coverage is strong here at Volquest.com. We've got about 17 different podcast options on game week. Hey, Ballin' with the Beast. What is that, Thursday, AP?
That's correct. Thursday. That'll be Paul Fortenberry's triumphant return to Volquest. Max is excited about it. I mean, I can tell. It's an exciting day as Paul comes back and gets to dabble a little bit. We'll talk a little bit of SEC football, and we'll pick the league, baby. We'll pick the league. Is Hubbard going to take Florida or Utah? We'll find out on Thursday.
We'll have a game day podcast, matchup piece, 10 things I think. Rocky Top roundtable. We'll have a little recruiting podcast. We got so much going on. But speaking of the league, I want to kind of end this, and we don't have to pick the league or anything because I know you guys will get into it later in the week. But Rob, you look at the SEC slate this week. Of course, Tennessee, Virginia, that's on Saturday, but there's two big ones. You've got Florida at Utah. That's coming up on Thursday, and then on Sunday night, you've got LSU and Florida State in that rematch. Some nice little juicy games. South Carolina, North Carolina getting after it as well here in week 1.
Yeah, Florida, I think, is the one everybody, at least from the Tennessee side, is going to be anxious to see. I mean, what's the quarterback situation look like? What's their offensive line look like? Year 2 under Billy Napier. How good is Utah? I'm not claiming to be a Utah expert, but I know under Kyle Whittingham, that's been a really good program, tough place to play. That'll be a tough road trip. Billy Napier has got to love whoever signed the contract for that home and home.
It helps, Brent, that Utah might be playing its third string quarterback though.
Could, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So we'll see. I think there's as many question marks as there is about Utah offensively as there is Florida. That's a tough travel. That's not the easiest place to play. I think there's a reason Tennessee's not going to Provo, right? There's a lot of people going, who in the world signed that game? And some Tennessee fans are like, man, I'm missing the sunset. It's a beautiful sunset over BYU Stadium, man. Go out there and see the state parks and look at it one night without your team playing in that stadium to open the season against a bunch of 25 and 26-year-olds. So that's not an easy road test for Florida, even though Utah is not 100%. I'm fascinated to see this North Carolina team. Austin, they've lost so many offensive weapons for May. Where's Drake May? Where's his confidence level with his offense right now? Do they have a pulse on defense? And are we going to see the good Spencer Rattler that ended the year? Or are we going to see the Spencer Rattler that started the year last season for South Carolina with a new offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. That North Carolina-South Carolina game does intrigue me of all the games. And then LSU-Florida State, that was such a back-and-forth game a year ago. What's Jared Verse look like in year 2? What's Florida State look like? And again, the LSU team that Florida State played last year to kick off the year is not the same LSU program that they should get coming up Monday night. So that one's a really intriguing game for me. And I'm going to call my wife, see if she can set Florida up with the pregame meal out there in Salt Lake City. Because when we rolled through there and flew out of there coming back from Yellowstone last summer, she's like, hey, I've got this great place for us to eat. And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And we drive. And I'm like, Catherine, we are in no man's land. Like, where are we going? She's like, it's right up here on the left. And we pulled right up, and there was bars across the windows. And I said, yeah, we're not going to stop there. And we just kept going. So
Johnny Boston's, baby.
Did they have cats and did they have cats on the floor?
No, it made Johnny Boston's look like Ruth's Chris, okay? like this place. Like the best part, she was like, no, keep driving. And I just looked at her and grinned. I mean, like, trust me, anytime she's brought up picking the food in some foreign city here lately, I'm like, oh, is it going to be like that place in Salt Lake City?
If it makes Johnny Boston's look like Ruth's Chris, then whew, I can't imagine what was coming out of your mouth to Catherine that night, because you wouldn't shut up about it down in Miami.
No.
Hey, your meal was pretty good at Johnny Boston's till she brought the cat over next to you. Then your meal was done.
True.
Yeah, my food was fine at Johnny Boston's. It was Kane that got weirded out when she brought the cat over and was petting it right beside it.
I got a drink right here. Now the cat hair is falling in my beer. I'm like, all right, that's enough. Let's move it along. All right, we'll move it along here as well. We got so much game week coverage coming up right here at Volquest.com. If you are not a member of us over at Volquest.com on the Journal's Quarters, there's no better time to join us than right now on game week. Kickoff sale, 50% off your first year or $1 for 1 month. That sale is not going to be live much longer. You need to take advantage of it right now. Again, 50% off your first year, new subscribers only, or $1 for 1 month over at Volquest.com. Big thanks to our friends Exterior Home Solutions. You can give them a call today for a free estimate at 865-524-5888. It's East Tennessee's first choice in roofing. Use your trusted and local source for exterior home renovations. That is Exterior Home Solutions. For Austin Price, Rob Lewis, Brent Hubbs, I am Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys as always, and we'll see you back here on Thursday for the Mailbag Podcast, Volquest.com.